A Quiet Place Part 2 takes place right after where Part 1 left off, with the loss of the father, the destruction of the farm, and the newfound knowledge of the monster's weakness. The extremely high frequency audio feedback from Reagan's hearing transplant. And so, the Abbott family ventures off into the unknown, in hopes of finding civilization. But they really should have known better, because the only thing more dangerous than these monsters is humanity itself. A Quiet Place Part 2 came out 2 years after the original, and with such a short time gap, the kids look a little bit older, but it isn't distracting. Emily Blunt looks exactly the same, and so does John Krasinski, who is very much alive, since the opening 12 minutes of this movie shows the day of the invasion. And once again, we have an absolutely fantastic opening. It opens with the same street, inside the same shop, as the first one. We aren't just being reminded of the family dynamic. The movie is actually setting things up for later in the movie. But this scene is just as exciting as it is informative. We learn all about the aliens. We get to see John Krasinski again. And we get to see how all this started. It's awesome. But then, after the title drop, it's time to hit the road. And after such an intense opening, it'll be nice to get a little quiet time as they travel beyond the sand path. Time enough to reflect, and hopefully find a little peace of mind. And they do, for 5 minutes. Then Marcus steps on a bear trap and everything goes to hell. And we quickly realize that Part 2 isn't messing around. It just went from 0 to 100, then back to 0, then back to 100, and the movie just started. This bear trap is the least of their problems. It's the screaming. And of course, the mystery of the person that's watching them from the scope. They managed to survive this. And we're reunited with Cillian Murphy from the start of the movie. And we discover that there is a radio broadcast that wasn't reaching the Abbott farm. There are survivors, and with Reagan's hearing aid, they have an ultimate weapon. And the best part is, this transmission is being broadcast just a few miles away. They could cripple the monsters in less than a day. That's wonderful news. But then Reagan sneaks away, off to save everyone all by herself. Which is a little frustrating, but this movie wants to follow the same formula as the first one, to split everyone up, and have all this hectic scary stuff happening all at the same time. So we wind up with Reagan teaming up with Emmett, Evelyn traveling back to the farm to get medical supplies, because Marcus isn't going anywhere. You know, because of the whole bear trap thing. So he gets to stay behind and watch the baby. And that's basically the structure for the rest of this movie, jumping around between these story threads. So, how does it all work out? The stuff with Reagan and Emmett is absolutely fantastic, with the cannibals and the island of survivors. We get adventure, revelations, and community. The stuff with Marcus is the weakest here, mostly because there's not much for him to do. So the best way to get him into danger is to have him limp off and make a bunch of noise. Thanks to his stupidity, the movie gets a lot more fun. He's going to need to try to survive, and Evelyn will need to be a badass again. And of course, all this stuff is going down while Reagan and Emmett are also fighting for their lives. The first movie was pretty intense, but this one just seems so amplified. This movie might be a little more frustrating with the decisions the characters make, but it makes up for it big time with how off the wall it is. It's all very overwhelming. And of course, everything else that made the first movie great is back too. the excellent cinematography, the score, the audio mixing, the performances. Everything is top notch. It's just dialed up. And even after the death of Lee, this movie hasn't lost any of the heart that the first one had. This movie has a bunch of small character moments that really flesh these guys out, and you care about everyone involved. The interactions between Reagan and Emmett are very impactful, along with those that you meet on the island. It's all good. I might be in the minority on this one, but I actually like Part 2 more than Part 1. The biggest difference between the two is the sense of scope. We've left the farm. And with this being more of an adventure film, instead of a home invasion, we just have so much more going on. But this movie doesn't sacrifice the strengths of the original in service of this story. This is an extremely well-crafted movie. It's just that much more ambitious. I give this one a very enthusiastic recommendation. And maybe sometime in the future we'll take a look at A Quiet Place Day 1, a spin-off without John Krasinski, and without the Abbott family. But until that day comes, thank you for watching.